Aw, yeah, boys. We're going live to our first match here for Cosmonicy's latest and greatest Tribunal stage, Tribunal of Torment! And we got Shambler, the yellow turret in the bottom right. Check out his Masons. They're all custom and shit. And in the top left, we got Grass Eater. He's, Delft Blue. No, it's Dark Sapphire. Well, whatever. He's Zerg. He's gonna die. Probably 3-1 in my head, my mind predicted. There you go. That was my impression of, Godweed after 2 beers. Got him. Somehow they deepened his voice. Can you believe that? All right, so I do predict that Shambler will take this match. However, I do also predict that we will see some interesting things. Speaking of interesting, if you are interested in go ahead and giving us some interaction over on the Twitch channel, you can bet your hard-earned minerals that you get automatically for free by doing nothing. You freeloader. You got 2 minutes to place your prediction, and we'll be running that every single match of this best of 5. Somebody's internet is not doing the heavy lifting. However, the Mason is doing some punching. By the way, the reason I didn't decide to increase the network is that it does not help you. If you're having intermittent lag like this, it will not help you. But Shambler has nerfed himself, and I guess his opponent, so that's alright. We'll figure it out later. While the Drolettes are getting punched, the Hydrith Den is on the way. This is a style that actually not a lot of Terrans have been going up against recently, so we'll see if Shambler has a reaction to it. A Hydra style with probably, I'm guessing, a couple of Hydras as the first unit, and then some Izira cores might come out later on, is going to be an interesting little pivot for us to look at. It is a Maverick-focused style. You can see the new Maverick model also on display, courtesy of Solstice. We might make some adjustments to it, but we'll definitely make some adjustments to the Mason. It's not quite all the way there yet, but I did need to push a new update to the game, and this guy was already in there, and I figured, well, why not, you know? It's not a horrendous downgrade, it's just, it's an incomplete upgrade, you know what I mean? One thing, I guess, if I'm allowed to wax philosophical about the things that I might adjust, I might see adjusted, is when you see the Masons moving down, the thruster graphic actually kind of is visible between parts of their back side, their jetpack, if you will. And I think that makes the graphic feel unnecessarily brittle, like it's too thin back there or something. But anyway, that's only one thing that we might adjust, you know, materials and stuff may be adjusted as well. But I think the biggest thing is the animations. We'll have it, it looks like it's kind of just chilling. Big chillin' while it's mining and or working or something, and I think that's one thing to adjust. As it turns out, the Mason is a rare case where it wasn't rendered with perspective on, but it was rendered at a different angle than... Yeah, Grass Eater is realizing basically what I was saying. Yeah, it's rendered at a different angle than the typical unit, so for that reason it does make it look a little bit weird. Now, Shambler has no idea how Grass Eater could have possibly bamboozled him and intercepted him in the process. So now he's under attack, and he's going to have to bring all of his Masons back home. It does end up stimming. He's not focusing down the right Izira core. They're just kind of ambiently taking some damage. So these guys will get a couple of frags to their names, but really the big victory there for Grass Eater is that all of the Mavericks did not end up making a beeline for this Hachirosk. We got the Night Fox SE2 following us. Welcome, Fox. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for the follow. Pump up the numbers. We got over 1,000 homies on Discord. Can you believe it? And now we have 438 Twitch followers. That's pretty cool. Now, I think Grass Eater is about to have 438 Mavericks in his base. Let's see if he can deal with that. He does have a little bit of a flank setup here. I thought those units were going to go across the map. He's going to be all right. He's going to be all right. And we do indeed have Zerg here. What a great soundbite. As all of the Mavericks end up dying. You know, traded for 5 Izira cores. It's not the worst. There is a :D. So that's psychological warfare as a star pad is set up there. One singular Maverick off to the side. There's another guy that was probably going to be going towards a third base, but the Hachirosk right now is mostly producing, and there are some Drolettes being made over here, but for the most part, he's just trying to come up here and scout. Wow, what do you know? More Izis. What could I have possibly foreseen with this? a dozen Mavericks and counting as more stockades are being assembled. You're not going to get past all of these, but at least he scouts the star pad. I'm kind of curious as to what Shambler's star pad location really meant this whole time. And so far, Grass Eater actually has only made Izira cores, and Shambler has only made Mavericks. Now, we're going to see a little bit of a change to that as the Ski-Back Scab is on the way, and of course the star pad. I mean, if you made a Maverick out of a star pad, I'd be pretty surprised and immediately disqualify you from a tournament. Instead, it will be an Anseal trying to provide detection. I wonder if he expects that because he's going Mass Bio, he's shown Mass Maverick, that there's going to be something other than Izira cores coming his way. This is a pretty scary number of them, but the micro should serve Shambler okay here. And while it initially looks pretty scary, these are not the Izira cores of old, where they absolutely would have 100% annihilated Shambler there, but they would have had less of them, so maybe not. But the Izira core of old did a little bit more damage and cost less resources, or cost more resources rather, and so it was like not really buffed, just changed. Not buffed or nerfed, just changed to be less in the damaging front and more in the spammable front, which is exactly Grass Eater's flavor, it seems. Anseal getting licked a couple of times. Some of these Mavericks are pretty wounded, but they will be held at the pass, and you can stim and rush down these Izira cores. Is he going to go for another stim, though? I mean, that would feel really dangerous. We already have anti-drop set up here from Grass Eater. I feel like he started that before even seeing the star pad. I could be wrong about that. A little bit lackadaisical on that Anseal positioning. Lets some of his Mavericks take a little bit of damage, and he could have let free a couple of shots there to bounce and kill a couple Mavs, but we already have some static defense being erected here. And the macro hatch, I like that kind of style. This is a good opportunity to see what Grass Eater is all about. He ends up going for 5 Skithra cores. What? What? Also, that Zerg here soundbite wasn't just a random soundbite. It was the acquisition of another Prime sub, courtesy of I Am the Weed of God. Thank you, son. Appreciate it. So we got a Sieve in the natural. We got a Vestry coming up here for some healing. And it looks like Shaman Anseal Maverick with some Cyprians to boot is definitely going to be the way that this cookie crumbles. There's a little bit more cohesion between like the Maverick and the Cyprian. I am wondering, maybe we can make the Cyprian even brighter by contrast and the Maverick even darker by contrast. Oh, that random Maverick actually spotting the Skithra cores, and he slashes. And Shambler doesn't even know it. Was not paying attention and is now caught typing and didn't look. I don't think he looked. All right, well, let's find out. Shamans are on the way. 11 Hydras. And there are a lot of Watchdogs being assembled. So I guess he did figure it out. But that was really funny. The typing. Tactical typing. Some burrowed Izira cores over and the natural. And we have a macro hatch all the way back here by the drop site. I like that, actually. That's pretty good. Solstice and Fox in the chat. How you guys doing? He looked after the typing. Yeah, okay. I missed that then. We're once again going to have that little intermittent network time, which is a good opportunity to remind you that thanks for checking out Cosmonarchy. You can support future show matches with a little donation if you like, and that's streamlabs.com/pronago. And you can also buy merch. Can you believe that? Holidays are coming. Watchdog will zone away those skits. Unlikely to get too much value right about now. And we will end up having a Stockade number 5 on the way. As the third base is going to be landed, we have a double expand from our Zerg player, which is very Zergy, and making a ton of Hydras at this stage of the game. I do think he's going to need Bactals, and probably a good number of Bactals. Right now, he's got a brawly army, but this army will sustain and do a lot of damage. It feels like Grass Eater has a chance to just get run over here if he's not too careful. He has capped his gas in the natural, and now the main. Needs to saturate it straight away and see if he can buy enough time. We're going to see the final cut of that power generator blow up. I think maybe Grass Eater caught that. And, well, he's kind of arcing back and forth. His Bactals are out in the open. This could be a catastrophe for him. He's not making any more either. But is it going to be enough to just have the 4 Bactals and the Anseal's off to the side? The Shaman's kind of out of order. All the way down over yonder. The Cyprian's now making engagements. There's no Hurricanes to rend the armor. The Izira cores will block the shots from the Cyprian. It feels like it's mostly just a stratified change up here, right? Like, the Mavericks up here died, and all of the Zerg down here died, so they end up just sort of bisecting each other and then saying, all right, we're going this way now. No anti-air defenses at this third base, but a kind of untimely third from Grass Eater's perspective. He might not expect it there. The skits could have some value going in that direction. They also could just be held in reserve and then come in to erase the Ancial energy. Meanwhile, an Atlas has begun, so despite all of this Vespian investment, Shambler is gearing up to double down on that and scale up the tech tree. And this is where I think the game can get out of Grass Eater's hands. But he is getting up to a reasonable set of economy. He's behind Shambler in terms of current income and current worker count. Actually, he's ahead of Shambler in the current department, thinking about it. He has way better saturation on his third than Shambler does. And he's got the gas base and a fourth base ready to be saturated. But right now, the Test Swamp mono-comping for the moment, adding more hatches. And by, mono-comping, I mean he's only got access to 6 units, which is a mono-comp in Cosmonarchy terms. Cycling back and forward. We do have the Bactyls at a much nicer count than before. The Iziricors are not upgraded yet because the swamp isn't done, but this is a fight before the tech can be articulated by Shambler. It's not even finished yet, so both players fighting at a moment of sort of tech transition, but I think this favors the Zerg, actually. The Bactyls not really being pressured right now, and even though there's a lot of Mavericks here, they are soon going to be erased, and just like that, I feel like Shambler just lost a lot of his sort of map presence. 12 Iziricors are going to pop behind this attack and reinforce. On the front lines, we got stockades on the low ground here. That's going to get spawn camped pretty easily, but will it occupy Grass Eater enough to ignore attacking the third base? Or to potentially crash upon these final steps here at the natural choke point. It does feel like this is an awkward position to continue the attack in, but Hydras are going to be able to help deal with this stockade, and that will at least blow that open. But I don't think he can realistically break this. Now, at the same time, if Shambler decides to come out and just try to go for a straightforward fight while his Ancials are in the front lines, not helping whatsoever for his backline, that is going to be a disaster for him. He's making 3 captaincies right now. He doesn't need to force the issue. He just needed to not invite Grass Eater in a moment of weakness. A lot of Cyprians finishing on the high ground now. His Masons in the natural are going to be heckled, and he is going to need to evacuate. Up he goes, but losing a lot. Grass Eater, remember, he already had a better armed economy, if you will, but he's going to take out the natural completely, and it doesn't matter that Shambler retains the worker advantage. A Trojan that had nothing in it ended up distracting some of what Grass Eater has. Now remember, we do have those captaincies finishing. They're not really making power units right in this moment. Those Skittercores mostly seem to have oh, they're over here, some of them. Down goes the star pad. No further Ancials will be generated. Can he break through? I think the answer is no. He's probably going to need some Tetzoricors, or just to crush the last base that's actually mining. Remember, this is going to deplete very soon here. So at that point, the mineral income will be very, very demure. Now, 15 Bactyls are definitely going to help him out. The Zorka Shroud as well. Try to crowbar himself into that position. He's making a lot of the Iziricors. He had a humongous bank. Grass Eater leading from the front right now. And we have some units over here, so these Skittercores are just going to discover the base and allow the rest of the ground army to clean it up. They won't do much damage to it by themselves. I think that you start to look for other bases as soon as your opponent doesn't, leave the game when their natural has been broken. It is Shambler. He does like to play it out to the grim, bitter end. And Grass Eater making a humongous mistake by just leaving a bunch of Hydras out there. If Shambler's going to come back into this game, it's going to be off of the back of moves like that, where Grass Eater just leaves his army out and doesn't really bother, responding to the threat. Trojan has been shooed away by Iziricors of all things. Not much saturation here on the extra satellite bases for Grass Eater either. Must be said, as we take stock, he had a humongous bank, but he didn't really spend it on getting any richer. Now, Shambler can't move out. That's another thing. The context within which Shambler can move out is if he ends up trying to pick off some of these satellite bases that he is at least scouted over towards the 11 o'clock position. He's going to see that the army is in the middle of the map, and he is going to go ahead and land a ministry over at the double gas base, of course off-center, as they often are. We have captaincies under construction. That's the 4th one. We are going to get those reclaimers online here pretty soon. Apostles coming out, but with the sheer number of Bactyls that are here and the fact that the Tetzoricors are unlikely to be brought down, we don't have any armor rend, remember, no Apollyoid adhesive. And some Skittercores are getting a little bit cheeky over here. It looks like, yeah, they'll be brought down pretty quickly, and just like that, Tetzoricors cycling through, Hydras and Iziricors. I mean, he hasn't actually leveraged the lake as yet. 9 of them are about to pop, but back at home. But he doesn't really need to either, you know what I mean? It looks like he's kind of dancing with the fight. We'll check the natural saturation when we can. Okay, it looks like it's back online fully, so Shambler has a little bit more income than we give him credit for. However, he's not really spending his bank as it is, not very efficiently anyway. The Tetsurasaurs aren't able to get to the front lines the way that you would want them to, but the Shaman count isn't high enough to sustain the front line for the Terran. And the Bactyls, especially as those Lakes start to burrow, if they can get to the front line to begin with, but the Bactyls are bouncing so much, I don't think it matters, boys. I think Shambler has been crushed for real this time. He does not have the ability to field enough units. Maybe there's an argument to be made that his Shaman stack should have overcome that, but he did not have it in the right spot, and he just didn't have enough firepower to deal with that. Every attack on a Tetsurasaur just about was given a retaliatory strike. His natural will be broken well and truly this time. Not enough units to defend the third either. Grass Eater can go for that, and he doesn't need to bother monitoring the army at this point. The Lakers will clear out the third base at 6 o'clock, and that will be game 1 for Grass Eater, which, honestly, I can't believe I'm saying. The fantasy GG timing will continue, I suppose. Emulating the best of the Terran race. What a massacre. He's resting all of his hopes and dreams in the Apostle, the sort of Apostle Shaman ball. Grass Eater will eventually figure that out and start to cycle back, it looks like. The Lake is spine killing the Bactyl on the way out, which is really good. Yeah, the Lakers are going to be the sort of tool that defeats this hope. Shambler is coping, as Shambler often does, to be honest. I mean, at what point do you say? He has come back from, like, seemingly not as... No, this position's pretty bad, but he has come back in the past from very destitute spots. And so, on the one hand, I understand it. But on the other hand, whatever psychic damage you think you're inflicting upon your opponent, you are also suffering yourself. Iliektoeatgrass will shut down the gas mining over there at the double gas base. And as soon as you walk out like this, you're asking to be surrounded. By the way, the Shamans are not deployed, so they looks like they are now. But they were not providing the necessary detection for those Lakes, and now the Zoryus are going to get in here and muck everything up, consuming the corpses for the brood spawn. Shambler will call GG as he's well and truly routed. About 5 minutes too late, but that's all right, boys. We got ourselves our game number 1 in the bag. All right, lads, we are getting into game number 2. This is Frosted Forest. It is a fun little map here that I am expecting good things from. This is a map by Biddy B. Jujic made Crisis Vector. We've seen Crisis Vector a gabillion times, so you know all about it, especially on Weekend Wages. Although not the most recent Weekend Wage. The most recent Weekend Wage, thanks to a very nice bounty by Biddy B. It was, yeah. That was... He spent $90 to make sure Crisis Vector was only played once. Shambler is in the bottom left as our... I'm not actually sure what color this is. It's not Harlequin, though. It's not... It's Vine Green, then, maybe. Emerald Terran. In the top right, we have Grass Eater, Dark Sapphire, Zerg yet again. 4 rags. Oh, he's going to kill 2 of his Mason. Unbelievable. Well, he uses 2 Masons to, like... What would a 4 axe be? You'd take 2 Masons off immediately and send them across the map. That's probably what you would do. I canceled my pool, :D. Yeah, whatever grass is, whatever kind of entity grass is, he definitely needs some kind of update. He's going to go for the Hydrothen yet again, the same as before. Shambler establishes dominance by taking some of that Vespine gas intended for his ally. By the way, this doesn't deplete, so there's no... it causes typing. That's about it. Second Stockade coming. It looks like this build is pretty similar to how it went last time, and I guess you can say the same about Grass Eater's approach. This is by the way, this is a legit strategy since you can cycle these out. You can just leave this on to make your enemy's workers confused as they are trying to harvest, and then you can grab some gas instead. And pretty sure you can even shift click that, but I haven't tested it out myself in a little bit. So definitely something to think about. Any of those maps that come out that have the mineral walls that you can deplete, you can do manually a little bit faster because you don't have to build a refinery in like a that one Flash game on Monty Hall, I think it was. So it's definitely different, but it's cool. The Mavericks are going to go ahead and form a little ring there, a little concave, as the Mason returns home with minerals stolen from Grass Eater. Unbelievable. Theft is rampant. 8 Iziracore timing here for Grass Eater, and this is honestly a little bit of a sleeper, right? Like, Shambler's going triple stockade. He has as many units as you can really possibly have versus this, but he's not going... I mean, it's bio, and so the 8 Iziracores could still do some damage here. Now, if they don't, if they get it and they see a fight they don't like, it just kind of means that Grass Eater won't develop his economy as fast. You can tell that the worker count here is definitely not favoring the Zerg. That isn't the end of the world, necessarily. It just kind of means that he's going to be in a different sort of spot. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. But this is shaping up to be like a fairly straightforward opener where they're clearly going to be going after each other in a heavyweight sort of sight. I guess 8 Iziracores does danger 13 Mavericks, so this is going to require some adjustments from Shambler. He's already lost some Mavericks. Oh my god, dude. He hasn't killed a single Iziracore, and he's already lost most of his Mavericks. He's building an add-on on one of them. I think he might have just been cooked, dude. I think this build just one-shot Shambler. There's no way he can come back from this position. I mean, just like he's got 5 live Iziracores, most of them healthy. Now he's going to try to drill onto them with the Masons, but this is going to cause a lot of pain and suffering. He's got a few Mavericks up here. He's going to have to micro his little heart out. The Masons trying to dematerialize, deconstruct those Iziracores, scrap metal necessary, but I guess they aren't doing as much damage as maybe we all would have expected. But I mean, he holds, but only barely, and with very, very wounded Mavericks at that. So the Cyprians finish up, and Grass Eater probably thought that there was going to be some kind of reaction to that, like his opponent would GG. Instead, he's awkwardly still playing the game. Yeah, I think Grass could have probably done something there a little bit better with the unit micro, especially if he was like focused on these Masons or picked off the couple extra Mavericks at the side, but Shambler already declaring the game over, but still playing. Classic Shambler, by the way. This is a classic Shambler. Well, now, talk about risk and reward. You've got 1 minute to place your bet now, because I forgot to do it earlier, God. Place your bet right now. Who wins? Shambler with a shattered economy, or Grass Eater with all this advantage? The bets come in for Grass. This might be a time where you bet Shambler. I'm gonna be honest. These are looking like really silly games. This kind of does throw me back to like seeing defensive Terran turtled up like this. It does throw me back. It is a bit of a throwback. All right. The Bio Army's in a bit of a position of power here. We're gonna need to see what Grass Eater wants to do behind that. He's got his ski backed up. Much faster tech to Shamans this time around. So this is an opportunity for Shambler to maybe show us what the strength of his composition actually is. He is very committed on the one base, but eventually he can start to think about expanding. Grass Eater, on the other hand, is making a couple of Bactyls, making some Hydras, an Ovaleth, and of course his third base, but we saw how he was very slow to saturate the third base, and that seems to have extended to his natural now. Very slow to saturate those. The bigger question, though, is he actually going to be able to hold against all of the Mavericks, the Cyprians, only 3 of them, and of course the 3 Shamans. It feels like they are kind of deadly, and the Bactyls are not with this army right now, so I guess he wasn't expecting Shambler to move across the map, but when you see that many units kind of concentrated in one spot, that is the area where you need to really think about it. His Drollots are going to start to draw some attention of Shamblers, but instead he's just going to try to focus on the micro side of things. No real significant threat here from Grass Eater as he shuffles back to behind his circuits. One Bactyl will go down after firing its shot, and he's going to see if he can run back into the main base. He could just be going after Larvosks here, but he's actually... Maybe... Does he think he can go for the kill? That doesn't feel right to me. I think the reinforcements that are being made from Grass Eater are going to clean this up. But he, instead of going for the Larvosk earlier, when he had more Mavericks to do it, because as you can see, the eggs are blocking quite a few of the shots, he went for the actual attacking the army. That feels like a mistake, as he will probably still get this Larvosk, but he could have gotten a lot more than just one. More and more Aziricors spawning. Eventually they will overwhelm and overpower the Shamans. And not much else is going to be achieved there. 1 HP. Oh, actually does regress the back, though. The Aziricor wasn't in the right spot to block. So after all of that, the army is destroyed. Back at home, we have many more on the side of the Cyprian. But remember, Bactals annihilate Cyprians if there's any sort of front line. And we have 8 Skithrakors on the way because, I'm guessing, Grass Eater is supposing here, oh, there's probably not that much anti-air back at home. And he's right. I mean, there's an army, but if that ends up moving a different direction or the front line can still engage it. By the way, Treasury Expand Ministry behind it. It feels like Shambler making some corner cuts here to try to get back into the game, which, understandable. Didn't do that much economic damage. Killed a couple of Drilleth that were being rallied out. You can't approach this army with Aziricors, that's for sure. You need a little bit more than that. The Aziricors need to be playing defense, interception for some of the other moves. Now, the Skiths are starting to amass, but he wants to go in with all 8, I feel like. Instead, going in with only 4 isn't really that helpful comparatively. Now, how fast do the Masons start to pull away? That's a bit of a different story. The Skiths need to go ahead and give chase. One more shot might kill a couple Masons. Looks like the answer is yes. Now, he'll run in with the Aziricors and see what else he can do. But again, without Bactals, I don't know how you're going to actually kill this ball of units, especially since a couple of Shamans have since been manifest. It's a little bit of economic damage in terms of slowing down Shambler's economy, forcing him to pull away. I think he killed, what, 1 Mason? But he is hemorrhaging a lot of units in the interim. His Skiths come back in. Actually, he shut down the mining in the main base for a little bit here. And a couple of units are getting picked apart as they are lured by the siren song of the Zerg out of the main base. Look at this, Shambler making the decision, perhaps? No, he decides to fall back. And the few Masons that are actually here are in danger. It looks like the Vestry will be targeted, and that is actually that's not a trivial pickup right there. That is actually pretty good to pop, especially since the Shamans are what's been bothering you, and he's only made 4. That's a manageable count for the Zerg to deal with. We sort of pass our attention back to the main section of the map there in the middle. The third base, again, barely saturated. The natural, a little bit more so, but again, there's nothing happening on this ridge. No ridge mining whatsoever for Vespene. 1,000 minerals. More macro hatches could be made. Is going to expand to the 2 o'clock position while the Bactals start to gestate. And the Skithrakors are exiting stage left with actually going after these Watchdogs. I think they're in enough number to deal with this. And meanwhile, the Terran army is leaving the building, but that is going to open things up. There's 2 more Watchdogs where that came from. Shutting down the mining in the natural is pretty significant. The Vestry being rebuilt inside the natural as well. Now they'll return to the main base, and the ground army is moving forward. This is not really the positioning you want. You need the Aziricors out in front, you know what I mean? Balling up. Shambler trying to make a game of it. Now getting right in the face of the Bactals, but I don't know if that's a great move. Intercepting, body blocking, linebacker time for the Aziricors. I feel like the Bactal count is still good enough. And yeah, he's kind of ignoring the Shamans, but the incidental bounce damage is still enough to wipe it. And the Skithrakors come back in afterwards to just go for it. He types out a little bit of shade towards Art Eternal, another Zerg in the tournament, and GG. Guys, that's the second game Grass wins. All back to back. I mean, is it over for Shambler? I don't know. I can't believe it. I feel like surely he must be able to dig himself deep. He even said in the chat, and I don't think this was hyperbole or like, you know, some kind of irony. I don't think there was anything about it there. I think he was serious when he said, I'm playing the OP race and signed up as Terran. I'm pretty sure he genuinely believes that Terran is OP. So what's he doing wrong here? And what is Grass Eater doing so right? We're going into our third game, and it could be the last one, as we already have Series Point up and running. You got a minute or so to make your prediction there. Versus the 2 players. Shambler is going to be going for a 6 racks, and Grass Eater, well, he's harvesting Vespene, so he's definitely not hatch firsting. I love that there are so many opinions about the two races and their various composite parts, because let's be real here, guys. Let's be real. If you talk to the top Zergs, they say, you gotta play Pool. You can't play Den. Pool is better versus Terran. Meanwhile, we got down here in the doldrums, Class 2s and the Class 3s. Oh, man. Hurry up and bet we trying to take your minerals. What's up, Sausage? Hope you're doing well here. If I'm dropped class because of this, so should AOT. AOT hasn't even played yet! What's the shade on AOT? Our AOT's match is the winner of Smarty Dog Live. We don't even know if AOT's played. Well, the Mavericks are starting to stem across the map. He's done this build to AOT so many times. AOT's ZVZ is pretty nuts. He almost killed Hamster in ZVZ, and he killed Jack Yelansky in ZVZ, and those were tournament games. But his EVT has been strugglesome, and it's an important one to have. So it is a pool start here, and the Maverick will start to make things a little bit awkward. Oh, I love this little move. Immediately puts some good damage. Oh, one more shot! It's a one more shot game. He could have borrowed that wounded Droleth, but won't do it. Won't get away with it. Shambler. Shambler. Oh, Shambler! That's it. You're class 3 now. I love the balls to just hatch anyway at this point. You know what I mean? That guy was never getting out of there, I'll tell you that much. Beautiful. Losing only one Droleth to a committed 6 stockade is honestly not bad. Double stockade, but you know, he was making Masons after the first one. And the Zets are going to move across the map. This will force a more defensive formation out of the Terran. He might be able to pick one Maverick. I think with the stem, he's probably all right, but you can see how fast Zets are. Even the stemmed Maverick can't quite outrun them in a perfect way. But yeah, when you see this many, you got to turn around. Testing. Yeah, that's good. I think if he just makes Quas, he can hold the ramp, but he's not making those. He's making more Zets. So I think, yeah, he's going to unsmiley face real quick here in a second. At the same time, though, this is only, what, 10 Mavs? So the stem goes through. He's going to try to go after the hatch. The Zets are able to do some kind of counterattack, but there's some... Yeah, Shamu's kind of read the situation well enough, I think, that it's going to be all right. So you know, Grass Eater is going to go ahead and concede the base. That actually kind of caught him a little bit. He's not making any... Where is his... Oh, okay, his Zets are down here. But he doesn't have enough. You know what I mean? So this is the kind of problem that Grass Eater is facing. A flawless series was on the cards, but not anymore. There's plenty more where that came from on the counterattack, and everything is dead for Grass Eaters. So we will be going to Game 4 after all. That will have to be it. GG's for that. And I can tell you guys that... Shambler's such a fucking idiot, dude. I can't believe it. And it must be said as well, as we get into this game, I didn't think this would be the case. I thought if Grass Eater picked up wins in this series, it would be due to maybe almost a little bit of blind luck or something. But actually, Shambler just doesn't seem to be playing as well to his normal level. I will acknowledge that, you know, he's had some pretty good practice games. And it's not really that the things are not going the way that he practiced, and that's what's throwing him off. I guess maybe technically that is true, but my sort of thought process here, my observation would be to say that it feels like Shambler's moves here are just a little bit off. He is the X factor that's gone differently. And so that is my my challenge there, or my charge, my expectation. We'll see if he can make magic happen and try to pull the reverse sweep. Already one way to, one stop on that bus. Scouting his opponent first is pretty good. Larvosk opener once again, and it will probably be that Hydra follow-up. I feel like the early Mavericks here shouldn't move across the map if, you know, you scout the Larvosk, but you're this late in, you know, actually traveling there. But Shambler has his own idea. We'll see if he can find some value with it. Mason is 4 more hits from that Droleth, or any Droleth, away from death. And 1 pair of Rilla Road Cores. Not a bad choice if you weren't going to be spending down the larva anyway. The Zergs are always so skittish about moving off the Kagra, but the Rilla Road Core outruns the workers, so you can chase it and kill it, and that would have been 1 less worker there. Now you're going to see here that the Mavericks are on the high ground. I still can't believe Shambler isn't making a Huracan or anything. I feel like 2 of those and good positioning will keep you insulated versus the Iziracore build. And we're just waiting on 1 more larva here, and the 8 Iziracore start will be complete. But maybe that's it. He made Rilla Road Cores instead of the keeping an extra larva. I don't think that's quite how it works. I think he would have been capped on larva earlier. Now he's going to go into Droleth, so... And this is such a hard angle to hold with just Mavs. That's the other thing, too, is that at this level, I don't actually know what game plan they were coming into each map with. You know, Shambler could have comfortably sat here and thought, all right, this isn't my main... Oh, owned. This isn't my main enemy here. Looking past his opponent a little bit, and then said, all right, you know, I'm just going to go ahead and make... you know, go through the motions on this one and prepare for my next opponent. This should be like a 3-0. He might not have had a prep in mind for Knife's Edge. Expansion on the way for Grass Eater. And I like that he went for the 7 Iziracores, but they were mostly there as a defensive measure to keep him the Terran off of his back. And so we're going to get into that sort of mid-game section here, or the mid-game is a strong word for it. Early stage of the mid-game, or later stage of the early game, past the first 5 minutes or so without utter bloodshed. And by the way, this little patrol move, it's a cute one that I think I've seen. I think Grass Eater was the first one. It might have been Cannoli, but I think Grass Eater was the first one to realize that you can do this to refresh the timed life by having the patrol path end up on the Kagra. Now the Iziracores are going to move across, as it feels like it's been a little bit too quiet, and he will end up confirming that his opponent is up ahead. I don't know about charging into the stimmed Mavericks, though. That feels a little bit ballsy. And by the way, Grass Eater has no military units being made behind this. He's got 4 more Iziracores that have hatched, and he's going to need to set up some static defense at the natural, I think. A pool is on the way. Oh, the run-by of the single Iziracore. Not able to get too far, and it will be apprehended inside the main base, it looks like. Although it's going to get close enough. It actually will get a complete scout off. That's really funny. The 1 Maverick will finish it off, but still. That was a cute little moment. If it had a little bit more health, then it would have maybe been dangerous. Those 4 Iziracores from earlier that were like made later, yeah, those are the only things that are left alive right now because Grass Eater was still hell-bent on actually fighting. Oh, God. The micro. Almost non-existent there for Grass Eater. So the Kagran will finish, but he needs to wait for the next round of Iziracores to pop, and burrowing the Droleth isn't too bad, you know, I guess. Oh, he could have just killed so many Navs with them. He didn't realize. All right, so he's taken some economic damage. He's lost 1 worker worth of, you know, by virtue of losing that structure there. Ancio moving across. Only 9 Mavericks. Well, 4 Iziracores can't really contend with that, so especially with the Ancio support. Again, Grass Eater shouldn't be moving across the map so boisterously, I feel like. But I also recognize you don't want to play super passively, per se. Now, the Starpad variation of this bio build that we have Shambler doing is designed to apply pressure a little bit earlier on. And, you know, you can go for a drop or you can go for Ancials for protection, but you can't sustain your composition. This is the thing that we saw in Crisis Vector earlier as well. And it's really hard to keep yourself safe from all of these bounces, dude. Down go all of the Ancial energy. Narrowly keeping some of these Mavericks alive, but others are not so lucky. Could have chased down the last 2 low HP ones, but they won't matter too much. That one that was burrowed, finally, Droleth turning into a structure that can be used for static defense. And the natural was pretty late, but it's only being used for Vespene right now. We still don't have an add-on for any of the stockades. 3 of them active, 1 of them being made. And he's already set some watchdogs up here by the main base, knowing that the Skittercore switch has really bopped him a few times. But we know that that's not really what Grass Eater is going for, right? He's got the pool, and it looks like he's going to try to expand the Keg route a little bit inside his main base, which is not a bad tactic. Catching up in terms of workers. Our Zerg player naturally is always going to be a little bit lower on the worker count in the early game. They want to stay competitive militarily. And this has been a bit of a strenuous stage, you know, first 5 minutes or so. A little bit difficult. Vestry has begun. So that is what we are going to be doing. And Godweed sounding the Zerg alarm. I'd be a little bit alarmed if my 12 Iziricors were all the way on this other side and had no idea what was on the other side of that ramp. Looks like he's going to just go ahead and go for it. Full send. Mavericks were not stim, so their DPS was pretty minimal. Still, trading 1 Mav for 2 Iziricors, you're going to be pretty happy with that. But is Shambler just going to bite all the way back to the defenses and rallies of Grass Eater? It seems like the answer might be yes. He's chased down 1 more Iziricor. Some of these Mavs are so wounded already. Only a few Hydras, so not really fighting with the best of ranged combatants. 4 Ancials at this point are pretty potent. But if they're not on top of the right units, then it doesn't matter. Now, they are on top of the center, sort of like the tip of the spear formation that was coming in there. And again, Grass Eater fighting away from his rally, fighting away from his Circuith. Feels like such an unforced error. He's got 9 more Iziricors coming, and the Circuith will be brought down. Oh, another stim pack needs to be popped. Where's the stim? Takes way too long to activate. Could have been so much better. Now the Iziricors will appear, and that bought a lot of time, it feels like. Only 1 Circuith, by the way, was very ambitious. Drolets are going to get activated. Drolets getting on top of them, trying to pierce through the Ancials. And they'll do just that. Looks like no Droleth going down in the process, and so back to gas saturation, back to seeing what else can be made. But the Cyprians are here now, and this should actually be a dangerous spot. He actually can't. Oh my god! He just canceled his Iziricors that were going to bail him out. Maybe he can still do something with the few that he's got. Remember, the Cyprians can't penetrate them, so they're not nearly as powerful. And the Ancials are starting to falter, and it looks like the Bio Wave has been routed. One of the Ancials even going down here. Oh my god, the Ancials are not helping. Unbelievable. Well, the Iziricors are going to finish after all. Grass Eater kind of panicking a little bit. Third base been scouted here. Iziricor coming down the ramp, not able to get more than a single shot off. Those Ancials are back up and running. And now, I mean, there's only Mavericks. You can deal with this with Iziricors. You just need to actually order your units up the ramp. Oh. Kind of confusing situation here for Shambler, I'm sure. He's very, like, the pressure must be up. You know, his heart rate must be going, as he is 1 game from elimination, and so many Mavericks just listless in the middle of the map, not actually added to the control group. Could have been reinforcing the front this whole time. Oh, there's nothing back at home for defenses. These 2 Kagrins didn't morph. 4 Mavericks going to come back in. There's only combat. You know, there's 1 Droleth being made, but the Iziricor is moving through the middle of the map and now coming back. I mean, this is within range. This is within vision of Shambler, but his sort of front line is definitely not as powerful as he would like it to be. One of the Ancials also falling in the process. The Iziricor is just slowing things down. It's pure Iziricor. Pure Iz. And Skittercores were made, but there's only 2 of them out in the front right now. Nothing. Still no circuits. A Zorka Shroud was made. He made the pool a long time ago. Hasn't made a single Zetracor, a single Quaz. Nothing at all. The next round of rotation. Like, at what point did you expect? Oh, it's still going to go. Still going to get popped. He says. And GG. I think the reverse sweep might be on to us, boys, because Grass Eater just did... at what point did he have the read that the aggression would be over? I don't know, but that was such a bad misread on his part. Very, very bad for him. And now we go to what will be decidedly our final game, and it is going to be on Punch Drunk, Port of Knockout. And we'll get started in our final game between these 2 players. We've been treated to a 5-game best of 5. And Shambler will be opening up with a very early stockade once again, or at least it's an early scout, but oh yeah, it's just an initial scout. Shambler is the red Terran in the top right, and Grass Eater, cross spawn, is the Dark Sapphire Zerg in the bottom left. Gonna go for Vespene again, so it looks like we will be seeing that fairly quick move towards a Larvosk into a Hydrith Den, perhaps. I think the pool opener was fine from him on game 3, but he had a misallocation of his units. I don't think he's played that map too much. And then, obviously, the way that Knife's Edge went, if only he could stay alive, he would be fine. You know what I mean? You know, sometimes on these sorts of maps, you'll see players go for what's called a 2/3 proxy when they build, like, somewhere down here, in here, wherever. And it's like a coin flip, you know? Because, you know, your opponent's only going to be on the close position to you, far away from where you're proxying, you know, 1/3 of the time, so to speak. The bets are coming in anyway. Shambler's starting to lead the pack. Hydrith Den will be the follow-up, so this is how Grass Eater secured victory in most of his games. Well, specifically, it was Hydrith Den, and then after that, it was ski-backed follow-up. And this time around, the ski-backed was late because he went for a pool, but then didn't make any pool units, among other decisions. And then a Shroud was made, but no Shroud units were actually made. So, on multiple fronts there, it feels like could have been a little bit different. Now, the Box Scout will give Shambler second access to his opponent. He knows where he is. When you see cross spawn at this point, I would hope that Shambler's thinking about a path towards a more conservative game, a more economic game. Can't be full balls to the wall cross spawn. It's at least it's a little bit harder to move units around the map, reinforce, etc. It does feel like Shambler knows enough about the game and about the map in particular, it being his map pick, to warrant a little bit more of a careful and considered path throughout the early game. And then we are going to see those Izira cores come out. Weird to call 7 Izira cores a more middle-of-the-road build, but I don't know. Interesting choice. It's 525 minerals, if my math is correct, so could have been many other things, but was not. And will Grass Eater move directly across the map with him? I guess the answer is yes. Thinking about going for his expansion, starting to droll up behind it. The idea being that he can project force with the map, and I do like this move as well, actually. It's worth pointing this out. He's done this move where he's gone for the expansion, and he's sending most of his units across the map and 1 Izira core to each other spawn. He should be able to just cancel the, or interrupt the Mason making the Ministry on location with this, because all the Mavericks are far away, for whatever reason. Let's see if he actually recognizes that and goes for the choice. No, not quite. He wasn't really paying attention to his units as they entered the domain. So 1 Izira core will go down for free, and all of the Mavericks will slip the net, heading to the high ground on the other side by the mineral-only third base. Invisible window here for Grass Eater to move across the bridge and maybe cause some commotion. One of these Mavericks may end up going down as a result of that little move, and that should be it. I mean, Grass Eater can come in, pick a unit, and walk out. He could have decided to commit the units and, you know, again, interrupt the construction of the Ministry. Shambler pushing the issue and forcing the Zerg off his territory as the Hacharosk finishes back at home. More Izira cores have been made. I was going to say more Hydrith units in general, but only Izira cores. That's it. And it is the Starpad variation once again. This is, besides Frosted Forest, this is essentially how Shambler has opened the games that went longer than the early rush. And so we will see the Ant-Seal come out. See if that's frustration that Grass Eater has been able to navigate. He's going to push again across the bridge, or at least see what's up. I like that he's testing the waters more cautiously now. And once again, the Watchmen will be watched by by acid, by bioplasma. A couple more Izira cores heckling on the sides. Looks like most of these guys were on hold positions, so that's a little bit awkward. And now trying to sick onto this party over here that went across the bridge. That's a fateful choice. Good micro on multiple fronts here from Grass Eater. Back at home, wasn't spending too much money, so he puts that Circuith down and starts to harvest Vespene and minerals with another round of Droleth in the tank. So, reunited as Izira cores catching some of these units. That's a little bit of a mistake from Shambler to have not been more cautious with his rally. So, really what I want to point out here is that Grass Eater's done a nice job slowly but surely putting the hurt on the Bio army. And he doesn't need to continue doing too much more pressure than this at the moment. I do love his forward positioning because it means that you are going to get the Shambler tactic of, you know, him. He's going to... I love it. He's got balls, dude. He's got cojones. But you are going to, you know, force Shambler to clear you as opposed to just having the area for free. And certainly he's going to be cautious about scouting ahead. But the Aziricors will retreat for the most part. They'll stay on the other side of the two bridges. The clearest, easiest path directly to Shambler's opponent. Watchdogs preemptively now, conditioning from previous games. We do have a ski backed, but no Skithicors on the way just yet. No Hydras either, so I have seen some Zergs do a straight-up Tethvith Swamp Rush. And base number 3 going to come out here for Grass Eater, developing, specifically trying to target, I think, the Vespene woes that Zerg can sometimes have. And there it is, the Tethvith Swamp Rush. We are going to see a ton of Tetzoricors. And it might be only Tetzoricors. We do have some Skiths on the way in the meanwhile, but they mostly compete for different resources. So when you see this base here, it does feel like Grass Eater's setting up for multiple victory conditions. He wants to keep his Aziricor count relatively high. He needs to be on the ball with his army. Dialed in if he can be. Cliff advantage could give him a little bit of value there, but for the most part, he just needs to slow this army. I love that he's pulling him away from where he is, forcing stims out, and I would have loved if he kept going towards 12 o'clock, actually, but I recognize that you don't have that much at home, and so you are a little bit concerned about that. So now, finally, Shambler has a little bit of room to maneuver. The Skithicors need to be cautious. They can't be seen too early. And if he gets to like 8 or 9 of them, he can destroy Watchdogs and stuff, as we saw in the game on Frosted Forest. It's pure Maverick so far, with a Mason, for good measure. No Cyprians just yet, but we do have the Vestria, and some Shamans are on the way to sustain the comp. This is the limited opportunity for the Aziricors to get much value at this point. A lot more were just made back at home. Anseal's taking some flack. Skiths could go for the Anseal kills, by the way. That could be an opportunity for those air units to get in action, because the splash damage will be breaking the shields a lot faster than the single target bounce damage. And it's just more Aziricor right now. Shroud halfway complete, but nothing from the swamp has been made. And spoiler, he can only really make Vitrilisks from the Skith, which is the Devourer. Not very useful here. Or he can go for the Tetzoricor, but he clearly doesn't want to reveal that he has that yet. Maverick scouting top left to see if there's anything over there. The Skith's going to fly in and be shown at the door by the Watchdogs. He doesn't have enough to really go after the workers here. He'll get a scout off, but poor control on him is going to result in them dying. You can see he's kind of trying to deal with the Vestry, but he's only got 2 Skiths. It's unlikely to make too much happen. You can see a minimal reaction time there. Minimal reaction force from Shambler. Once again, trying to see what he can do. He's got 31 Aziricors, dude. He's committed to the bit. And the Skiths are going to get cleaned up by the Watchdog, as the Vestry will be repaired. So, not great success on that front. 10 Hydras being made. What does he want to make all this tech for? He makes the Shroud in 2 games now in a row with no Shroud units yet used. I do like this little run by. This isn't bad. He might even be able to isolate the Shamans. Instead, he's going after the Anseals. I'm not sure what he's going after exactly. Seeing if maybe he can come across the bridges now. He just wants to go for the kill with pure Aziricor. I really don't think this is the play. When he has so much other tech, what is he doing? Grass Eater, a massacre of his Aziricors. He ends up dropping about 26 of them. And now he's going to start to make 9 Bactyls, but his front line is diminished. 12 Droleths idling at the 3rd base. He's going to go ahead and get them set up on the Vespene. Some Lake is on the way, but it feels a little bit late. When you got Anseals and Shamans for detection, you're going to need a hell of a lot more than just 1 or 2 on the Burrowed Attacker. A frustrating series of events here on Game 5, but also in the games that were already lost by Grass Eater. This one still up in the air. It feels like Shambler's very locked into his composition, only now starting to add Cyprians, and even then, it doesn't really help him against the threat that he's up against. Third base is sighted. Shambler might be now a bit more aware that he's in some trouble. And finally, we got some Tetzoricors out. This is a bit more reminiscent of the Crisis Vector game in terms of its composition. Lakers came out in the late stage as well as the Teths. But these eggs could get spawn camped. The Bactyls are on the other side of the bridge, which is kind of a problem for Shambler, funnily enough. And he will go ahead and just commit to the attack. The Aziricors cancel, revealing what they were. I think he might have thought those were Hydras. that ends up being a little bit of a problem. Now, we do have 6 more Tets completing on the other side. The Mavericks are going to complete the run-in. They are going to go after some workers. What is the saturation, dude? Where are your workers? I guess he's got so many minerals, it doesn't really matter much. But, yeah, he won't be able to get too much in the way of actual kills here. And, you know, he kills some workers. That can be redone in 1 second, basically, one rotation. And only the Ant Seals survive to tell the tale with 1 Maverick at 6 o'clock. Like, where'd everybody go? No tier 2 on the way. 13 Skittercore is going to come in and try to swing for the fences and batter him. Shroud not upgraded. Hey, it's Zerg Shambler. I'll let somebody wonder how that could possibly happen. No, we have Easter egg unit names, and if you have one that's if you have a Droleth named Shambler, you can the name persists across the structures, so that's really good. Harakans are starting to filter in. I don't know if that's enough. I mean, Tetzoricores really are scary. But not if Grass Eater walks in with just Tetzoricores. He does need to actually... No! No grass! Bad grass. All right. The 13 skits are waiting and ready. And with enough armor on them to absorb Cyprian shots, they can be pretty spooky. He can try to go after the mineral harvesters here, which would hamper some of what Shambler is doing. But they might be instead earmarking for some sort of army squeeze. The 1 lake is... Is there one still burrowed at the 3 o'clock? No, or 9 o'clock, rather. It looks like maybe the initial shots are here. The Ant Seals can be cleared by the skits. A random stockade has been... Colton! Whoa, this is going to pull Shambler's army out of position. Hold on. The lake is burrowed. That's a really nice lineup there that they're going to have. And the Iziricores, the Tetzoricores, rather, are going to be hampered down by all of the firepower. But there is so much here. More of them rejoining. The Lakers can continue to wander up. The Skittercores have been cleaned up for the most part. There's still a little bit over there, but they're not active in the fight. Those Tetzoricores are indeed dying as somewhat predicted, but the Shamans have all but collapsed. We still don't have anything to deal with the Ant Seals, so even though there's Lakers here, they shouldn't be able to finish the job entirely. The Skittercores will clean some more of those Mavericks, and all in all, it was an expensive loss for both sides, but remember that Shambler's economy is not as good as Grass Eater's, despite the worker lead. That being said, Grass Eater could have a better economy than he currently has, and he could also spend his money a little bit better than he currently is. You know, one thing that I feel like has gone underrated since maybe last tournament, last Acropolis, Zergs have forgotten that Vithralisks splash the armor rend and attack speed slow onto ground units beneath the air units. And what do you put over your ground units? The Ant Seal! So, of course, that would be great tech for that. That being said, Shambler taking a bit of a risk here. Is it calculated enough? Remains to be seen. I suppose since Tetzoricores just now started, there is room for Grass Eater to have this base flattened over here. He's got some units that might actually be useful in just making it a little annoying to deal with. But I suppose we'll wait and see on that front, because instead of even going... Oh, no, hold on. The Lakers are going to reveal it. I was going to say, yeah, he's got Lakers over here that are going to clearly reveal the base. Now, what does Grass Eater want to do? Because he could just decide, all right, yeah, you got that going on for you. You're going to go ahead and commit your army here. Well, the Maverick is probably going to clear that Droleth down at 6. Base gets cleared. And the army's going to get out, I think. Grass Eater taking his foot off the pedal here in a kind of big way. The Tetzoricores are walking into a very easily controlled area. There is nothing charging those Cyprians to try to get in the way of them. There's no Zorius. There's not enough Iziricores or Tets. He might still be able to clear most of the army, but it wasn't so cost efficient, was it now? Needs to get those Lakers up and running. Dude, there's so many Ant Seals on top of those Cyprians. There you go. Now you've cleared the deck. The one Cyprian, the chosen of God. No, never mind. Goodbye. All right, so 2 Mavericks were left over. We got a third one at the top right or top left main. Another side of Mavericks. Do we have any tech development for Shambler? He did cap his sieves, but the mineral-only base here is kind of, you know, he's making the realization now that he needs to secure 12 o'clock or some other base with gas. Pool being made at the third base, of all places. Where is your production? Grass Eater, you're locked in combat with someone who seems to be getting more powerful by the moment. There's a lot of Lakers. You don't really want to fight into all these Lakers, I feel like, especially since you don't have splash damage. Shambler, no! Haven't you played enough Massacre? Looks like he's still going to make it happen, though. The Ant Seal's distributing some of the projectiles. stealing them away from their intended target. And then the Shaman's healing them up so that the Lakers don't do enough of a job. Kind of ignoring those Lakers for now. Is it going to come back to bite him as the Iziricors and the Tets are coming in a little bit further, a little bit closer? It's a kind of a drain tank slap fight right now because the Tetzoricors have that lifesteal, but they will eventually be focused down, and now it's just Iziricors and one lone Lakers trying to make the fight happen. Can the Iziricors overwhelm all the healing? Well, the answer to that question is no. Critical mass of sustain may have been achieved here. A lot of Mavericks that could be going somewhere. 12 o'clock seems to have gotten out of hand. And again, Grass Eater has so much money. So he queues up 12 Zoryus. The Atlas goes down elsewhere. And I do think this is shaping up to be a Shambler victory. I mean, Grass Eater has some play left in the game. He still can make a composition work. And there's not that much firepower in this army, by the way. But it's going to be reinforced pretty soon. And it's all down to Grass Eater. Just, he barely spent his money this game, it feels like. And I really don't know what he's going to be able to do going forward. Ultra Cores wouldn't hurt, but really what he needs is Gorgs. Maybe even Zarkavra Cores. And I don't know if he has the time for that. By the time that comes up, I think the Tier 2 bio will be activated. The mineral only down here is going to get cleared. The Zoryus committing to the fight and then drawing back, trying to encourage the Lakers shots to go the way they need to go. Bit of a sandwich here for the Zerg army. Going to get surrounded, reverse surrounded by the Terrans, and the rally points haven't been corrected. Meanwhile, some Mavericks have been dispatched to clear out 9 o'clock, and Grass Eater never actually set up successful bases elsewhere. So that is a significant portion of his income down there at 9. And he'll soon find himself out of money and out of lives. In the best of 5, he started up 2 games on, but he has nothing left. The Maverick Menace has carved a path. GG, says Grass Eater. And yeah, well, mate, you could do a lot. But yeah, any lesson you can take from that game, I hope you do. Shambler will be our best of 5 reverse sweep man. That series did cause some physical pain.